Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco. Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here tonight to review a movie that, to be honest, wow. This movie, it's called Riff Raff, and I would call it trash. Trash. Okay, this is a movie that it's the new Bill Murray movie. That's what I thought of it as, and I didn't really know much about it, if anything. I just saw that he was in it, and Pete Davidson is in it. I'm not really a Pete Davidson fan at all, though. I kind of despise him ever since I saw him in the Jesus Rolls, which was a terrible movie, probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And this movie has Ed Harris. It's got Bill Pullman's son, who's in Salem's Lot and Bad Times at the El Royale, which is one of my favorite movies, favorite modern movies. It's got Stifler's mom. It's got an Italian woman who looks like Sofia Boutella. She's like one of the love interests. And so this movie, it's all about this retired mob guy and his family and his old love interests and old enemies. And shit happens when one of his sons shows up with his pregnant wife, and he says that they're on the run. And so essentially, like, it's all about how, actually, I'm not going to spoil it right off the bat. The first thing I want to say is that this movie is super slow. And it's slow because if the plot moved forward at like a normal pace, the movie would be over at about 30 to 40 minutes. It's a very, very simple idea. And I can kind of see by the end of the movie, like, the themes that the filmmakers were going for, talking about fatherhood, legacy. There's a lot of messaging in the movie about, like, dating and, like, how what women look for when they choose their boyfriends and such and stuff like that. I don't know. It just, but it's packed. It's such a strange movie. It's such a strange and bizarre experience, and not in a good way, because, to be honest, for the first 40 minutes to an hour, I was wondering what the fuck this movie even was. I was wondering, like, what is this crap? Like, it was so slow and so dry, and the music is weird, and it doesn't really fit the movie at all. And the characters are not very likable, and you can tell that a lot of the stuff in the movie is just improv. And I will say that, like, improv can be good, but if there's too much improv, you can tell. Because the actors, when they're doing a scene, it's like they just keep going and going. And it's because there's no script to tell them, like, okay, the scene's over now. It's like, so they just keep on going and going and going. And I actually did, and I don't know if I'm just making an assumption, by the way. I don't know for sure if they had a lot of improv, but that's what it felt like. It did not feel like they had a strong script with great dialogue and really rich conversations. But I actually did some improv scenes in my movie recently. It was a lot of fun. It was probably the most fun, maybe most fun or second most fun filming experiences that I've had so far. And but even then, her and I, my co-star, we came up with a place to end. And even when we didn't, I was very conscious, and I was like, okay, this should probably end now. And then I literally left the scene. Like, I just got up and walked off camera, because I was like, this could just go on and on and on. And that's what it feels like in this movie, is that you have these characters, these actors who are just like, oh, look, we got Ed Harris, we got Bill Murray, we got Pete Davidson. and they're just, let's just let them just do what they want. Hey, I'm an actor and I'm really special, and and that's basically what their improv was like in this movie. I know that that's kind of childish and cartoony, but that's exactly what it reminded me of. So I was bored. I was sitting there just staring at my phone, wondering, what the hell is this movie? What did I get myself into? Because I spun a wheel. And it landed on this movie. And it just, wow. It reminds me a lot of, like, Kroger. Kroger used to have a lot of movies that they would advertise. Like, at the front of the stores, they'd have these big DVD displays with, like, new releases and shit. And I used to love getting, like, movies at Kroger. As a kid, that's when I got Garbage Pail Kids, was at Kroger. I thought that the poster looked cool and scary, and so I got the movie, and then it turned out to be, oh wow, this is one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. But, like, that's what this movie felt like. It felt like you'd see this movie at Kroger on sale for, like, $1, $4, and you'd be like, oh, it has Bill Murray in it, that looks good, quote unquote, and then you get it, and then you watch it and you go, oh, at least it was only $1. It's a lot like, there was a movie that actually did happen for me. I vividly remember this terrible movie. It's called Bait Shop, and it has Clint Howard and Miley Cyrus's dad, and it's this weird movie about, like, these two rivals who are, like, fishermen, and, like, they do sports fishing, and it was so weird and so bad, and that's what this movie reminded me of. It was like Bait Shop 2.0, except it was a little tiny bit better, because I don't know, So as it goes on, it's revealed that the son did something to Bill Murray's son, and there's a rivalry between Bill Murray and Ed Harris, and so Bill Murray and Pete Davidson are going around trying to track down Ed Harris and all his extended family, but the problem is that the first half of this movie basically feels like a weird TV show episode about this stupid family that I don't give a flying fuck about. This family of, like, these boring, generic, and dull characters. The weirdest thing about the movie is that it's narrated by Ed Harris's second son, who's the son of his second wife. And he's, like, this weird, like, nerdy character who, like, he has this, like, subplot that goes nowhere, where he, apparently there's this girl that he was almost gonna get with, and then she friend-zoned with him, which, friend-zoning is just the absolute worst. Like, last year, that whole thing that happened with my, someone that came here, like, that was terrible. Like, that was just... And it went even farther than how it went with this character in the movie. So that's what made it even worse, was that, like, there was definitely something there. And, like, basically his whole storyline was exactly like what I had to do last year, which was be like, no, I'm not going to settle for this bitch. And I'm going to, get with someone who actually deserves me. And so that was basically his whole story as a character. But then it never comes up again. And I just thought it was weird because, like, everything in the movie, or a lot of the stuff, it paid off. Like, that's one of the things that I will say, is that the filmmakers, they set up a lot of things that pay off. Like, even just small things. Like, one of my favorite parts of the movie is that they're having trouble finding the characters. And the kid, DJ, who narrates the movie, I don't know why he narrates the movie. There was no reason for him to narrate this movie. he made these other guys a perfect, like, detailed topographical map of the area so that they could find their house because they're friends. And they give this map to the bad guys. And I just thought that was such a smart and funny, like, Hitchcockian thing. And I loved that part. That was one of the only things I liked about the movie. I'll also say that I enjoy Bill Murray, kind of. I thought that he just needed a better script. And I really think it's a shame, too, because Bill Murray is this, like, old, creepy, like, just piece of shit, like, mobster or former mobster. It really, really was... You guys had something there, and it just wasn't really utilized properly. I mean, I could definitely see like an A+ movie with him as like an old mobster guy, but this just wasn't it. So basically, the whole plot centers around this Italian girl who looks like Sofia Boutella. She is the wife of the son of the main guy. There's a lot of characters in this movie, but it all revolves around love and romance and shit. And as the movie goes on, they just basically throw in all these twists, like twist, 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 along with paying off stuff that was mentioned and brought up earlier. And it just, to me, it was just kind of like a giant question mark of like, what was this movie for? Who was this movie for? What was it about? Why was it needed? And I say why was it needed because I don't understand, like, the main point of the movie. I don't understand, like, is it about just parenting? Like, I really don't get it. And there's also something really bizarre that happens near the end. You know, Stifler's mom... And I know that her name is Jennifer Coolidge, and I'm not trying to disparage her. It's just that's my nickname for her. But her character sucked. You know, she basically played Stifler's mom in this movie. And, well, she comes in at the very end after everything has been settled, and she just randomly shoots Ed Harris. And you think, oh, she killed him. And they made it be like this stupid twist where it's like, oh... After all that's... And there's a lot more to explain, but I'm not going to explain it because it's just pointless. It's just a bunch of bullshit, you know? But, like, it's basically fill-in-the-blank storytelling. But you think, like, oh, she killed him, and that's the end of his character. And I thought... I was kind of, like, upset because I thought, this is that stupid cliche... where, you know, in every movie, like, where you have these old characters, the old characters both have to die. Even though, like, one's a hero and one's a villain, both the old characters have to die because they're old and they're the past. And then the young characters, they get to stay around forever and ever because they're the future and they're blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, oh, it's one of those movies. But then at the end... Ed Harris just randomly wakes up, and they treat it the way that they shot it. They treated it like it was like he was the main character, even though his second son was the main character, I guess. Was there even a main character in this movie? I don't know. I mean, I think the main character was like my attention span, which was like, on thin ice the entire movie. Like, I was so fucking bored. I downloaded this new game on my phone, and it's called Color Block Jam, and I got to level 50 while watching this movie because I was so fucking bored. So that should tell you how bad this movie really is. But at the end, they treated it like Ed Harris is the main character, and they have this bizarre scene where, like, he comes in the kitchen and he's like, "Am I dead?" And Stifler's mom is just all of a sudden okay with him again. And she says, "No, you're not." And, you know, she acts like Stifler's mom. She's got, like, a hangover. Her head is sore or something. I don't know. Fucking Stifler's mom is fucking bizarre. But he then meets the baby that his first son had with the Italian woman, and I know that all of this doesn't even make sense to you because it's a 2-hour movie that I'm condensing into 15 minutes of rambling. And what did that person call my reviews? They called them like a stream of conscious. This is a stream of conscious, by the way. It's not a review. So fuck you. But the last shot of the movie is Ed Harris sitting down at the dinner table holding this baby. And I'm not kidding when I say this. He looks into the camera and smiles. And it goes into a freeze frame. And then the movie ends. Very, very weird. I'm just like, what the fuck was this movie? Man, like, what was this movie? What was it? Like, what was the point? Like, just... You had an Italian girl who looks like Sofia Boutella. Like, what were you thinking? What were you thinking with this movie? What was the point of this movie? I mean, I just walked away just going, thank God this movie's over, because, like, I can't stand movies like this where they ponder and ponder and ponder and never really get to a point that makes sense. And that's another thing that I think that a lot of modern movies are really bad at. Movies nowadays, they don't respect the audience. And I'm not saying the people who made this movie don't respect the audience, by the way. The people who made this movie, I hope that they make a better movie after this. I really do. They've got something. There were glimpses of something good in this movie, but overall, like, they need to do some script work, some writing work. If you need a hand, feel free to reach out, and I will help you with your script, by the way, because because writing a script is probably the most important part of the filmmaking process, and I'm 100% serious when I say that. Like, if you don't have a good script, you don't have a good movie. No matter if, like, the script is, like, rewritten constantly, like The Shining, you know, where the actors were getting their pages the day they were shooting, it doesn't matter. Like, the script is king in a movie. And this movie the script just was not as good as it could have been. But something that I really despise about movies nowadays is that they just start. There's no hook. They always talked in school about you need to hook the audience. You need to hook the reader. You're writing an essay, you need to hook the reader. They don't do that anymore. I had teachers who complained about my writing. They would complain that I would hook them. Like, I would start off the story, like, in the middle of the action, just throw you in there, and it was like this hook. It was an attempt at a hook, and I'm not saying it was good or bad, but, like, they got really upset at that. And it's like, well, there's so many movies nowadays, and they just start, and there's no hook. There's no opening scene where it's like, this is the movie. Like, when I think about a good hook opening scene, I think, oh yeah, they did have a stupid hook in this movie. I just remembered. I can't even remember what happened in the hook. That's how bad it was, though. It starts off, and I can't even remember. But they show DJ, who's the second son who narrates the movie for no reason, and he says, yeah, this is me. You want to know how I got here? Like, yeah, it's another one of those movies with that cliche. But if you guys want to know a really good opening hook scene, watch the original Lolita. It's this brilliant opening sequence where, it's just two characters in this big mansion talking, and it's so suspenseful, and it's so good. And it's probably my favorite part of that whole movie, Lolita, is the opening scene. Another great opening scene is, I think the movie's called Serious Man, or A Serious Man, by the Coen brothers. The opening scene in that movie is literally the only good part of the entire movie. And I think that This movie, the way that it just rambled and rambled and rambled, like it kept going, and you kept wondering, what is the point of this movie? What is the plot? Who are these characters? Why am I watching these bizarre, like, improv conversations that just go on and on and on? Like, is the movie ever going to get to a point? Is it ever going to have something happen, like, besides this BS? Like, there's another thing in the movie, too, is that there's a lot of, like, characters just telling each other stories. Just telling each other stories about the past. And what really bothers me is that the stories are integral to the movie. So it's like, instead of telling the story, because the story's so bare and basic, I mean, it would have been like 20 minutes short movie on YouTube. But instead of telling the story, they had to have these stupid conversations where it's like, oh, I'm going to tell you how this happened. I'm going to tell you how this happened. You see flashbacks like it's fucking Family Guy or something, or it's like a sitcom. And it's like, what the fuck is this? So overall, I really did not like this movie. We have not really had a good movie so far in 2025. I'm kind of upset. I'm kind of like at a point where it's like, okay, this is getting seriously concerning now. I want to see like a good movie or a better movie than what I've seen. So I would give this movie, it's funnily enough, just had these Reese's peanut butter cups with jelly in them, quote unquote fake jelly. This movie really reminds me of those peanut butter cups, ironically enough, like just, they were so gimmicky, and you just ate them wondering, like, who is this for? What is this? This doesn't really taste great. It's not actual jelly. There's no fruit in it. There's nothing about it that tastes like it was interesting and worthwhile. And that's what this movie is. It's like a big bunch of nothing with an Italian girl who looks like Sophia Boutella, which, you know what's really hilarious? This probably says something about me, and maybe she was, but, like, they said she was Italian in the movie. For the whole movie, I was wondering if this actress was Russian. And then it turned out she was Italian. And that was basically, like, what I took from the movie, is that, like, oh, she's Italian. And so, yeah. Anyways, please like this video, comment, tell me what you thought of Riff Raff. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Why was this movie called Riff Raff? I mean, I guess you could describe this movie as a whole bunch of pointless riff raff, but like, why was it called Riff Raff? And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest movie reviews. 2025, am I right? So goodbye everybody, see you soon.